right today were the Colburn Fairgrounds. And I was there at the fair at least once. And I'm not sure when it closed, but it must have been in the early 30s when I was there. If Don Perry was here, I don't know if he is or not. I was born in the land of the blue snow, or the year of the blue snow is what his famous words. I was here at one fair, and then it progressed uptown to street dances. And the main street was cement at that time, so it was easy to dance on it. And the first orchestra was George Wade and his Cornhuskers. And they were there for a few years, and followed by Russ Creighton and his band. And they were out of Toronto. And they would park a straight flatbed truck for the band to be on, and right about where Max Milk is, along there someplace now, and the whole street was open. And the only gambling I ever saw was 7 and under or something that I remember. But those days it was in Depression, and if you got to the street dance, it let people who didn't have too much time to let their hair down. Probably cost 10 cents to get in, something like that. And that's one of the things I remember. Now, I saw a picture when I was not paying attention to Felicity of Noah Snessinger. Well, the Snessingers owned the orchard that you can see in some photos that's just to the north of here. It was a huge apple orchard. And there were many orchards in those days. Every farm seemed to have a small orchard. And of course the spraying machines took 2 or 3 people, had to fill the tank with water. Somebody had to drive the horses, and somebody else with the wand to spray, and the trees were never pruned, and when I was young, they reached the moon. The first time I went to pick apples, I was 14 on a Saturday, and I had to have somebody set the ladder for me because I couldn't lift it. But here I'm getting away from what I had written down. It's not hard for me to do that. The apples were packed in wooden barrels, and a lot of them were sent to England. In the late 1940s, a man by the name of Joe Persofsky came to town and began an apple business in the big barn of a building next door to Dark Heating's offices on Earl Street. And he was here for many years. And then Harry Edlitz, also out of Toronto, came, and he had an apple business, buying and selling apples in the building recently used by the Pentecostal Church, and it sits just out there. And farming in my early life, well, the threshing was done. I can still see one going by our school, the public school, Pine Grove School. Steam engine, huge lugs, and on that, about 3-5 miles an hour, I guess, and it would end up at somebody's farm and place the machine, the thresher, in on the barn floor, mainly, and then with a belt. I think they crossed the belt anyway, ran the separator, and the oats at our place were carried by someone, and as they were threshed out and put in the bin. By the way, one summer I lost my running shoes, and so I went barefoot all summer. And where did they find them? In the oat bin. I'd been in there playing and took the boots off and didn't remember. I don't remember any better today. The plowing was done at our particular farm anyway, with a team and a single plow. So it took a long time to do an acre of land, but it got done. And then there was the picking of the stones at our particular farm at Stowe, where I'm still living on part of it, and the stones. And there was a stone boat. Does anybody know what a stone boat is? Oh, a lot of people, okay. I won't have to describe that. And also, each farmer was responsible for a section of the road in Crammy Township. And Bill Craig, who lived on Percy Street on the way to Castleton, was the manager of the streets, roads. And I remember going with my grandfather Harnden to a small gravel pit, which is now Honey Road, and filling up, put the sideboards on the wagon, filling that up, bringing it back and spreading it on that road. And this is supposed to be history. Well, I guess it is. Of course, every breath we take, the last one is history. There were 3 canning factories in the area, one in Lakeport, one in Salem, and one in Colburn. The Colburn one is where the curling rink is. And there were Canadian Canners, which became Aylmer. And a lot of the farmers grew tomatoes and took them in either by team and wagon, or if somebody was lucky to have one of the first trucks. And then a lot of farmers grew for Campbell Soup Company, and they were shipped out of Colburn on railway cars to Toronto. And where am I going? I began school at Pine Grove School, SS number 10 on Purdy Road. At that time, we were still using slates. And that's right. So that tells you that I'm nearly 100 years old. I even laugh at my own stuff. I'm like Margaret, the writer. Atwood. Right. She laughs at her own stuff. Now, Kathleen Blackburn, the teacher, classes from primer to senior 4th, all one teacher. The drinking water, there was no other water but drinking water, was brought in a pail from Aunt Mary McCracken's house, to the house, or 200 feet to the east of the school. 2 boys, the older boys, would put a stick through a pail, and they'd carry that water back. That's the only water there was. And of course, all the facilities were out under the beech tree. How much time have I got? I've gone through the whole paper, but well, anyway.
Have you got some stories of Cat Hollow, or just?
I got a poem.
Yeah, you go for it.
You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Pardon me. The following verses are published by request of one who many years ago was well-known resident of Lakeport. Before I get to this, I want to tell you that I knew Miss Padgington very well, and she was the Sunday school teacher, and in the post office she did do all that work alone. And Wally Peterson, in my time, picked up the mail off the train and took it up there in huge bags, and I forgot to tell you something else about the street dances. The ice cream for the affair was brought from Coburg in insulated bags. Somebody went to Coburg and it was insulated bags that kept it hard, and then they went in tubs, I guess. So this is history. Anyway, so I'll finish sometime. I can read this. Take me back to old Cat Hollow, where I spent my boyhood days, where the bright sun gilded everything that met my childish gaze. There on the hill so nobly stood one of knowledge's springs, where we got an education by the rod's persuasive ring. Take me back to old Cat Hollow, let me see the old school crowd, where old Johnson spoke in whispers, but the whispers, they were loud. And where Peterson and Carswell and Wilson and McHale taught the children new ideas when the old were growing stale. Old Grimes, he kept the tavern on a corner next the lake, where the boys they used to gather and proceed to irrigate. Their Bill would do the fighting. I'm missing a word here. Dug up by him by Nick, for it was a very husky man the two brothers couldn't lick. Oh, these were very happy days, these days so far away, when to us boys it seemed the world was only made for play. Oh, the skating and the swimming, how our pulses they would thrill when Joe Keeler ran the Navy and old Niles he run the mill. All the old familiar figures to my memory come and go. A remembrance traces backwards to the days of long ago. There comes even Auntie Rosie, whose cares would never cease if she lost sight of the gander that led her on her flock of geese. You can tell the generations now that Lakeport habitate that they missed an awful lot of fun by something coming late, and simply coming late. They may can a few tomatoes, but that is very slow to the business that was done there when Dewey ran the show. Take me back to old Cat Hollow, if I thought that I could find all the faces and the places as I see them in my mind. Take me back to old Cat Hollow, when life's lesson I have read, but you need not hurry matters. Take me back when I am dead. And I did deliver milk down there, and I delivered it to a lady by the name of Mrs. O'Connor, very Irish. And one day she came out, she said, "You know, Harold, there's no difference between an old woman and a young woman except for a few wrinkles." Oh, you better take this thing away from me or I'll stand here all day. One thing leads to another.
Thank you so much, Harold. That's a bit of precious history we have here.
And I left a copy of Warren's book there if anybody wants to look at it, about where all the stores, people, the owners of the stores were.
Glorious.
1919.
Okay. We are actually videoing this, so we will edit it in the special clips that we all want.